Hey, it's Ellie. Welcome back to another speed art, or hello if you are new. Today, I'm doing more Curse of Strahd stuff. This portrait is actually going to be two people because I decided that after I started drawing it. So the sketch right now is not what the final portrait is going to be, but I am drawing the kids from the Death House, which is a sort of pre-campaign to Curse of Strahd meant to level characters so that they're prepared for the actual Curse of Strahd campaign. So you can do Death House as a level 1 character and you end at level 3 and then you continue on to Curse of Strahd. And that's what I'm planning to do for my players because they're new and I don't really want them to start at level 3. They're only going to have played like one character through at this point by the time we play Curse of Strahd. So yeah, I'm gonna run Death House for them, and I'm gonna change it because I've heard a lot of things about the Death House that are not great as far as like TPKs and whatnot. Yeah, so anyway, I'm not gonna talk too much about that. I am actually going to talk about my first D&D session because I ran it a couple weeks ago and it just went so amazingly. I can't even, it was so good. So I had 3 players that I've known for a long time. They're like longtime friends, and my fiance is one of them also. So yeah, I ran Dragons of Icefire Peak for them, just the first part where we just started it. I figured that was a good campaign because it's a starter campaign and it's not too in-depth with like the lore and whatnot, so they can really focus on learning the mechanics in this campaign, and then in Curse of Strahd we can kind of go the opposite as far as like lore and whatnot, because this Dragons of Icefire Peak has basically no lore, and Curse of Strahd has a ton of lore. Like, there are very famous characters within the D&D world that appear in Curse of Strahd. So, yeah, it's gonna be quite lore intensive. So I wanted them to really use this starter campaign to get a hang of the basics, so we don't have to worry about that as much when we're playing Curse of Strahd. Also, the map tools that I have set up is working really well so far, and the macros and everything are working as well. So I'm really happy about that. Forewarning, I'm about to jump cut to, in the video, to when I drew the second person, the little boy, in this token. So yeah, I kind of cut that part out. I actually didn't even record it at all, so it's not like I cut it out. I just was messing around with how I wanted this token to be laid out, and I decided to add these two together instead of having them as a separate token, because they're not going to be doing anything separately the way this campaign is for the Death House, at least the intro. So yeah, anyways, back to what I was saying. I really wanted my players to learn the mechanics in Dragons of Icefire Peak, and I'm very happy that my map tools macros are all working out the right way that I wanted them to, so it's so much easier for my players to kind of know what they're allowed to do and make sure that their rolls and everything are correct, because they're not calculating pretty much anything during the gameplay. That's all me beforehand with writing the macros, and then when we play we can just basically click a button and it auto rolls, it auto calculates. It's very nice. And like I said, all the options for my players are there, which is something that I wanted, because I think as a new player it's very difficult to remember all of your abilities and traits and bonuses and whatnot, even just your attacks. Like, I feel like sometimes my players might forget that they have daggers on them or something, but they won't with my macros because it's right there. It's one of their options, so they'll see it in their attack little group and be like, alright, well, I can use my hand axe or the daggers or or spells or whatever it may be. It's all available to them. And so I'm really happy that that's working out, and it seems like my players had a good time in the first session. We've had a session 0 and now a session 1, so I guess two sessions technically. But yeah, I will briefly go over what my players did in session 1, because as new players they kind of went extreme in the in the rowdiness, I guess, of their characters. So basically the premise of this campaign is that there's a dragon attacking the area. It's Neverwinter, I think, is the whole name of it, which features in a lot of different campaigns. But yeah, so we're kind of centered in Phandalin right now, in that area, and the dragon is attacking different locations within Neverwinter. And so one of the quests that my players came across was that they should go to the local midwife, who kind of lives like off on her own in a windmill, and they should warn her about the dragon and try to convince her to come back to town where it's safe. So they go to the local midwife, and you know, through the events of the roleplay and whatnot, they ended up actually kidnapping the NPC to force her back to town. So by the book, she says that she doesn't want to come with the players because she needs to stay at the windmill and make healing potions. It's like I use this example to my players too, but like, I don't know if anybody remembers in RuneScape, that really old computer game, there's a windmill that makes flour. It's sort of like a windmill and a flour mill combined, and so that's kind of what this windmill is in the D&D campaign. It's like some kind of mill for creating potions. And so she wants to stay there and make sure that the area has healing potions, especially if there's a dragon running around. And she tries to tell the players this, but they didn't really listen to her, and they decided that if she wasn't going to come with them willingly, then they would just kidnap her and force her back to town. And that's where we ended this session. Though right at the end, this is another thing too. So I'm supposed to roll for where the dragon is every time my players leave an area. And the first time they left an area, they left Phandalin, I actually rolled that the dragon was at Phandalin. But I was like, I actually cannot have my players fight the dragon for their very first thing that they like encounter in the campaign. That's too much for new players. So I waited until they had like traveled a little bit to be like, oh, the dragon is at Phandalin and it's attacking the town. And they saw it in the distance and they were like, oh shoot. But then they just kept walking, which I wanted them to. I didn't want them to go back and try to fight the dragon. But yeah, so they get to the windmill and they kidnap the NPC. And as they're leaving, I roll again for where the dragon is. And he's at the windmill. I've ran this campaign before. And my player never encountered the dragon. Like, I rolled for it. It was never in the same place because there's like 20 locations that the dragon can be at. And so twice in a row, my players in this campaign rolled with the dragon like at their location, and I was like, oh my goodness. So the second time I was like, well, I'm not gonna ignore it twice. So I did have them fight the dragon as they were leaving. The NPC tried to escape while they were fighting the dragon. They caught her. They still got her captured, and they are heading back to town with her now. And our session is actually tomorrow. It's today of when you're seeing this because I'm going to put this video out tomorrow. But yeah, our session is tomorrow, and we're going to see what happens as a result of my players kidnapping an NPC and bringing her back to town as a hostage. Like, they're gonna walk into town as kidnappers, and the townsfolk are going to react accordingly. And I warned my players of this because they're new, and I want to make sure that they understand the consequences of when they do things. But they did, and one of my players was even like, don't worry, I have a plan of how we're gonna deal with this when we get back to town. So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's session. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the whole story of the first session, and that's actually pretty much the end of the video. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. Follow me on Twitch to catch my live streams. I do art there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!